Welcome. I hope you've had a good start to the year, and I hope you're looking forward to everything else that's going to happen during an exciting and challenging 2012. So that by the middle of the year, we will in fact have a brand new sports centre. We will take the time to work through the Master Facilities Committee and the College Board to ensure that with the $3 or $3.5 million that insurance is spending, we put the additional money in to make it the sports centre of ELTHAM for the future, which means new seating, new pooling, new change areas, and a sit-down cafeteria for middle and junior years. So we're quite excited by this, as long as Justin was listening to what we want, and he has sufficient sway, of course, with the Master Facilities Committee and the Board to have it all approved. The second thing, of course, is the Music Centre, where we've started the master plan for the Music Centre, and you might have noticed a bright new shiny roof. That was part of the master plan rebuild of the Music Centre, but it of course got done in the first week of January because the hailstorm helped us to remove the roof from that building. So the rest of the place has about 6,000 metres of square metres of new carpet. There's a whole range of new things and new equipment and so forth, but it was held. And if you run into any of the property manager or any of the workers, just say to them, wow, in the space of 4 weeks, you did a tremendous job, because when people saw it on Christmas night and Boxing Day morning, you would have cried. It was just such a mess. But anyway, silver linings, we're moving ahead. I want to show you something first. In 2027, your 3-year-old will be in year 12. That's 15 years. In 2025, your prep will be in year 12. That's 13 years. In 2021, your year 4 will be in year 12. That's 9 years' time. Let's go backwards. We go back 15 years, we arrive at 1997. Many of you won't really remember it in terms of what was happening in the world. The population was 18.6 million. Geoffrey Rush won an Oscar for Shine. There was the Stolen Children report that we didn't apologise for till 2007. Princess Di was killed. Rafter wins the US Open. Cheryl Kerner defected on political grounds, not marriage grounds, from the Democrats to Labour. And in Queensland, Pauline Hanson launched her One Nation Party. And the VCE had been established for 10 years. In 1999, 13 years ago, again, many of you may not remember, Cathy Freeman was the Australian of the Year. The Boy from Oz became the biggest box office success in Australia. Victoria's gas was turned off after the explosion. You might remember that. Howard wins a second term. Don Dunstan died. Victoria dumped Kennett. And Australian troops entered East Timor. And sadly for many of you, hey hey, it's Saturday night. Finished. And the VCE is changed to its current format. In 2003, 9 years ago, and I suspect all of you will remember these things, scientist Professor Fiona Stanley named Australian of the Year. Nicole Kidman for Virginia Woolf wins the Oscar. Australia joined the invasion in Iraq. The ALP elected Latham. The Canberra fires took 500 homes. And the government gave 500 million towards restoring flows in the Murray River. Let's go backwards for a moment with technology. In 1997, you would be using Windows 98 and Internet Explorer. Microsoft was spending 150 million to take a share of the financially troubled Apple. And the first colour media photograph appeared on the front page of the New York Times. In 1999, Web 2 was launched, and we moved from a static-based web where we could download and get information and content to an interactive web. Wasn't really very long ago, was it? But we've all become so accustomed to it. It's part of our lives. The first BlackBerry device was introduced in 1999 too. It was a two-way pager. In 2003, it became a smartphone, I guess. And just quickly, 2001, iPod. 2003, Skype. 2004, Facebook. Do you know today that there, February this year, 845 million users of Facebook worldwide? Pretty huge. 2005, YouTube. 2007, iPod. 2007, the Kindle ebook reader, the first ebook reader. 2008, iPhone. Where would some of you be? Justin's there texting at the moment. No, he's not. Then I won't go. And in 2010, the iPad. You didn't think you only started using it 18 months ago, did you? 2011, 93% of households with children under 15 had home internet access. In 2000, it was 15% of homes with children. In 2005, it was 63% of homes. One of the key things that I think this says to us is that we don't know what the world will be like, or even the learning demands of the VCE will be like in the 2020s. We do know, however, that there needs to be an increasing emphasis on young people learning how to learn and wanting to engage in learning. As I said in College Connections this week, these are the very heart of what ELTHAM does. Looking backwards as I've done, the changes that have occurred in the same time span in years that it will take your child to reach year 12 have been huge and rapid. Many of them have totally transformed our living, learning and working. We need therefore to create a context where first we recognise that if a change is occurring this rapidly and even more rapidly now than in the past, then the world in which our children are and will be operating will be vastly different to our world when we were at school and very different to our world today. So we need to be very careful of what we teach today, that it is in fact relevant to the learning and the growth for 2027 and beyond. And where we also need to question why any of us would want our child's schooling to resemble anything like our school or even a school of 10 years ago. I should also add that ICT or IT is important in learning, but is not what makes schooling today engaging and relevant. When your child is very young, 3 to 10 years also, the whole notion of senior schooling is scary. Not really to the kids, but to you. And so, in terms of the context of what I'm talking about, let me invite you at any time to make contact, and I'll take you down through into the senior years and see what we do to ensure that our young people emerge from year 12 as people able to manage their living, learning and working. And we know they do, because we survey them every 15 months and 5 years after they graduate. I was listening to Lindsay Fox. I will be careful of the time, Sonia, I won't go longer than half an hour. I was listening to Lindsay Fox, and what I'm saying, I think I've probably said before, and it may bore some of you. Go to sleep if you like. But I think it is imperative that we actually realise that when we're looking at schooling today, we actually are looking at what might be for our child in 2027 or 23 and so on. I was listening to Lindsay Fox of Lynn Fox fame, talking with John Fain on 774 last Thursday. He said this: over the past 12 months, that's the past 12 months, 2011, I employed one new employee on the east coast of Australia. Huge organisation. I employed 500 in the northwest of Australia. I employed 3,500 in Asia. The ones I employed in Asia, he said, are doing jobs that could have been done in Australia if we had got our act together in terms of the urgency of global change and the need for change in education and training. For all of us, what Fox said should be sobering, but it should also remind us that ELTHAM has been saying this for at least 12 years, and also in its schooling with its fine teachers, all of whom are sitting down here, is doing something about it. In 2006, the Australian Council for Education Research published this. It's my book, but it's largely about ELTHAM and the future. If you haven't read it, this is a plug. You can get it from the ACER website, or I think we might still have some copies in reception. If you go along and say I mentioned it, you can have it for 10% reduction. If we don't change, imagine this same large employer talking in 2027 when your 3-year-old is in year 12. In 2026, I made 2,700 employees redundant on the East Coast, employed another 250 in the Northwest, but, you know, we've got the mining industry technologically under control, and I employed a further 27,000 people in Asia. In fact, my company headquarters is now in Mumbai, and my son-in-law is Chinese and manages our large branch with 15,000 employees in Beijing. That could be a reality if we don't get smart. 27 years ago, Prime Minister Bob Hawke talked about the need for a clever country. In 1989-90, Finn and Carmichael set a blueprint for new curriculum for the 21st century. In 2007, Kevin Rudd talked about an education revolution in schooling. None of those things have really happened. What in fact did happen is, and it was nice, we got some money for a new building. And we now have My School website, which allows us to compare schools' financials and literacy and numeracy. We want schooling that will develop the creative, self-directed, entrepreneurial young people who will be able to manage their world. ELTHAM is recognised as the leader in 21st century schooling. Some of our competitors are less than complimentary, and I need to say that, largely because they fear the consequences of change, and they have 3 fears. I know this because I'm a member of the Heads Association and various other groups. The first thing they fear is that young people will become uncontrollable. Secondly, they fear that parents won't like it. And thirdly, they fear that student results will drop off and they won't get the numbers that they need. I invite those schools and principals who want to change to visit, and they do. And they clearly declare that we have far fewer issues of discipline, bullying and disengagement than they have. What's more, they see we have student voice and they're amazed that I can take them around the place and most kids talk to me and use my name, David or Doc. And there is that quite strong respect, me for the kids and vice versa. And they see that and it's amazing. Secondly, I point out to them that parents are intelligent people who live and work in this changed world and in fact know better than us in education that the real world, what the real world is all about, and know that school for their children has to be qualitatively better than they had and indeed very different. And then thirdly, in terms of results, I've shared with you, I think I've been fairly open in terms of how our Year 12s go and their offers and what they go and do. And they talk in College Connections every now and then and so forth. And you've seen our survey of graduates. Their results grow and they grow with their passions. ELTHAM is about young people. And we do live to the poem. And I need to say this to those of you in ELC and junior years. We live to the poem that was written in the 19th century. When was it written? Sonia? Where is she? Sorry? 1970s. Yes. I thought it was the 1870s. I'm just a bit older than Sonia. I will check up on that. The 100 Languages of Children poem, which talks about schooling taking away the talents and the creativity. And what ELTHAM is about, we respect and grow the creativity and talent with which children are born. It's not created, they're born with it. Our job is to keep growing that. And I believe we do, with the strong assistance of these people here. We grow it from the ELC 3-year-old through to the end of Year 12. At that stage, they continue growing themselves because they've developed those skills. We do this in an environment of care, collaboration, strong people relationships, 21st century values and standards, and by managing change. Our board, and I think this is worth sharing, Sonia's pointing at a watch, has set as core competitive advantage, we will do what other schools do in relation to the fundamentals and the core skills and values. But we will set new standards for learning, engagement, how we work together, and in what young people can actually do. I read today through the Year 3-4 History Centre Parent Information booklet. Wow, what an amazing experience your young people are going to have. My daughter was in the History Centre in 2005 and 6. How it has changed, how it has embraced the changes in the world and the changes in young people. You will enjoy it, and you'll enjoy your experiences with the teachers and your children. Well done, the Year 3-4 team. I look forward to reading the others over the weekend because you'll get the prep and the 1-2 next week. I have gone on longer than I intended. Enjoy the night. Recognise that your school works hard to be at the forefront of 21st century learning, and that it will always work in partnership with you in ensuring, whether it's 3-year-old, 4-year-old, prep, 1, 2, 3, 4, that we continually work to grow the creativity, to grow the change capacity, to grow the learning capacity of our young people. Again, welcome. Enjoy the rest of the night in 2012, and I will see you lots during the year, which I didn't last year, but this year will be remarkably different. So now I think you go off to your neighbourhoods.
I'll just change that date. I say 1950s.
We say no, you can't. You were so definite about the 1970s.
Is that right, Emma Reed? About the 50s? Yeah, that's okay.
Okay, people, yes, head off to your neighbourhoods. Thank you very much.